Corpus Christi is one of the most intriguing festivals in Christian history, and it is not honored by all religions, maybe due to its intricacy. Despite having been passed down through generations for thousands of years, many people are unaware of its true history and meaning. In truth, the tale of Corpus Christi is frequently misinterpreted and misunderstood, even by many Christians who fail to see its genuine meaning. However, from now on, we shall work together to unearth what truly happened. Without further ado, let us begin the video. The entire story begins in the year 1263. At the time, Europe was a melting pot of strong beliefs and passionate religious activities. In this environment, there was a priest from Prague, a city in northern Italy. This priest, Peter, was going through a major crisis of faith. He had serious misgivings about the true presence of Jesus Christ in the Holy Eucharist, which plagued his soul. Determined to find answers and reinforce his faith, the priest planned a visit to Rome, the Eternal City. Many believers conducted pilgrimages to Rome's tombs of the apostles Peter and Paul in search of increased faith and divine benefits. So Peter embarked on his spiritual journey from Prague, traveling through several places. Along the trip, he chose to stop in Bolsena. Bolsena was famous for its devotion to Saint Christina, a virgin and martyr from the 3rd or 4th century. Bolsena, with its huge and magnificent lake, had a rich religious past. Saint Christina was known as the Saint of Misfortunes because to the countless martyrdom attempts she faced because of her beliefs. Saint Christina was born into a pagan family and converted to Christianity at a young age, against her parents' misgivings. Her dedication to the Christian faith infuriated her father, who held an important position in Bolsena. Her father tortured her and tried to kill her in order to force her to abandon her beliefs. However, according to folklore, all attempts to assassinate her were foiled by divine interventions. Finally, he resolved to bind a huge stone to Christina's body and toss her into Lake Bolsena, believing it would kill her. However, a miracle happened. Instead of sinking, the stone to which Saint Christina was chained mysteriously floats on the water's surface, supporting her and keeping her from drowning. If you want to know what happens next, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and continue watching the video. Saint Christina remained atop the stone while it floated, protected by heavenly intervention. This astonishing and amazing event demonstrated God's protection of Saint Christina during tough times. Furthermore, the footsteps left by Saint Christina as she floated on the stone can still be seen today. These footprints became tangible proof of the miracle and a sacred memento for the believers. The footprints have been kept for generations as a reminder of Saint Christina's presence and the heavenly intervention that saved her from impending death. Saint Christina's footprints on the stone were a source of veneration and devotion for local Christians and pilgrims who traveled to Bolsena seeking healing, protection, and spiritual direction. This miraculous event caused Christina's father to collapse and die after witnessing the prodigy. Christina, who survived, faced several attempts at martyrdom, but was always saved by divine intervention until her death. Saint Christina was highly revered in Bolsena, and many pilgrims came to her tomb to seek graces. In this devout atmosphere, the priest Peter chose to celebrate Mass, praying for Saint Christina's intercession to enhance his confidence in Christ's genuine presence in the Eucharist. During Father Peter's Mass in the town of Bolsena, something absolutely unusual occurred. Peter, still dealing with his faith crisis, questioning Christ's genuine presence in the Eucharist, lifted the consecrated host during the consecration. It was then when the host started bleeding. Blood poured from the host, staining his hands and the corporal. A square cloth put on the altar. This unexpected and extraordinary incident astounded not only Peter, but also the devout present, who saw the miracle with amazement and devotion. Father Peter, overcome with passion, wonder, and spiritual relief, was unable to continue celebrating the Massachusetts. He delicately placed the wounded host on the corporal, and, filled with joy and renewed devotion, proceeded to the sacristy. As he moved, drips of blood dropped on the altar's floor and steps, leaving unmistakable traces that would be preserved as hallowed relics. The report of the miracle immediately spread throughout the church, and other priests arrived to confirm what had occurred. They were all awed by the obvious proof of the miracle: the bloodied corporal and the bloodied stones. With a grateful heart and still in astonishment, Peter decided to take the blood-stained corporal and report the miracle to Pope Urban IV, who was in the nearby town of Orvieto. When Peter arrived in Orvieto, he told the Pope about the occurrence in detail. The Pope was tremendously affected by the story and accepted the miracle as a divine indication of Christ's genuine presence in the Eucharist. He recalled Saint Juliana of Liège's vision, which revealed the necessity for a separate feast to honor the Eucharist. It is worth taking a moment to discuss this wonderful and unusual narrative in greater depth. Saint Juliana of Liège was instrumental in establishing the feast of Corpus Christi. In the early 13th century, Juliana, a 16-year-old nun, began to have mystical visions that revealed the necessity for a particular Eucharistic celebration. In one of her visions, she saw a bright white disk with a dark stain on one side. This image piqued her interest, and she spent many years in prayer attempting to understand its meaning. After a period of spiritual inquiry, Juliana realized that the white disk represented the Church and its Eucharistic adoration. However, the dark patch represented the absence of a specific feast in which he properly honored the Blessed Sacrament. Although Holy Thursday had long been celebrated to remember the institution of the Eucharist, this feast was also associated with Christ's Passion. Juliana understood that Jesus desired a happy and solemn feast dedicated solely to the grandeur of the Eucharist. Juliana was hesitant to report her visions for 20 years, until finally finding the confidence to share her experience with a trustworthy priest, Jacques Pantaleon. He was convinced that Juliana's visions were genuine and urged her to share her message. However, time passed and Juliana died. Her visions faded into obscurity. Years later, the priest Jacques Pantaleon, the only person who was aware of Juliana's visions, was elected Pope Urban IV. Pope Urban IV was tremendously impressed by Father Peter's testimony and grasped the miracle's significance right away. With a great spiritual awareness and the remembrance of Saint Juliana of Liège's vision, which predicted the need for a feast dedicated to the Eucharist, the Pope recognized that this miracle was a heavenly message. He decided to act quickly to prove the event's legitimacy, propagate the miracle, and establish a new liturgical feast. To confirm the miracle's authenticity, Pope Urban IV assembled a committee of recognized theologians and specialists, including the renowned St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Bonaventure. These men, recognized for their intelligence and holiness, were dispatched to Bolsena to investigate the incident and inspect the relics. St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Bonaventure, together with other theologians, thoroughly examined the evidence. They examined the blood-stained corporal, the blooded stones, and obtained testimonials from those who witnessed the miracle. Once the miracle's validity was proven, the committee organized a return to Orvieto with the precious relics, including the blood-stained corporal. The miracle's news had already spread by the time the committee departed Bolsena. Many local faithful, filled with emotion and reverence, began to follow them. This crowd continued to grow as they advanced, with people from various nearby villages and towns joining the procession. As the procession neared Orvieto, Pope Urban IV, informed of the successful verification and the approach of the miraculous relics, decided to go out to meet them. The Pope, accompanied by clergy and church dignitaries, descended from his ceremonial vehicle. As they approached the bridge, where the theologians and the procession of the faithful were arriving. When the procession reached the bridge, it was a moment of great solemnity and emotion. Pope Urban IV, wearing his pontifical vestments, knelt in adoration before the Eucharist, represented by the miraculous relics. He reverently received the blood-stained corporal and the consecrated host, and together with the procession, began walking towards the city of Orvieto. This event marked the first Eucharistic procession, which would become a central element in the celebration of Corpus Christi. Convinced by the theologian's verification and the profound spiritual significance of the event, Pope Urban IV decided to establish a solemn feast to honor the Eucharist. In 1264, he issued the bull Transitus, decreeing the creation of the Feast of Corpus Christi. The bull emphasized the need to reaffirm faith in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, especially during a period when various heresies were questioning this doctrine. The Pope saw the feast as a means to strengthen the faith of the faithful and promote Eucharistic devotion. He also highlighted the role of Eucharistic miracles, such as the one at Bolsena, as divine signs confirming the truth of Christ's presence in the consecrated bread and wine. Following the decree of the feast, Pope Urban IV took steps to ensure that the new celebration would be marked by a rich and deeply spiritual liturgy. Understanding the importance of an appropriate rite that captured the essence and glory of the Eucharist, the Pope called upon some of the most renowned theologians of his time to compose the hymn and prayers to be used in the solemnity. Among the theologians summoned were St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Bonaventure, both intellectual and spiritual giants of the 13th century. When the time came to unveil the hymns, all the theologians gathered in the presence of the Pope. St. Thomas Aquinas, known for his profound scholarship and spirituality, was the first to present his composition. St. Thomas began to recite his hymn, the Laudations Praise. This hymn, through richly crafted verses, expresses the belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and the reverence due to this sacrament. St. Thomas's performance was so marvelous and inspiring that all the other theologians present remained silent, deeply moved by the perfection and spirituality of his words. With great humility and recognition of the superiority of St. Thomas's work, each of them tore up their own manuscripts, acknowledging that St. Thomas's hymn perfectly captured the spirit and purpose of the new feast. Thus, the Laudations became the official hymn of the Feast of Corpus Christi. This event not only highlighted the extraordinary theological and poetic skill of St. Thomas Aquinas, but also underscored the unity and humility among the greatest theologians of the Church in recognizing the most suitable work to glorify the Eucharist. The first celebration of the Feast of Corpus Christi, instituted by Pope Urban IV, marked a moment of profound devotion and joy in the Church. The festivity was meticulously planned to emphasize the importance of the Eucharist and reinforce faith in the real presence of Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. The inaugural celebration of Corpus Christi featured a solemn Eucharistic procession, an event that would become a central tradition of the feast. During this procession, the Blessed Sacrament was carried through the streets in a monstrance, allowing the faithful to worship and honor the presence of Christ in the Eucharist. The city of Orvieto, where Pope Urban IV was temporarily residing, became the epicenter of this celebration. The importance of Orvieto in the history of Corpus Christi was highlighted by the construction of a magnificent cathedral designed to house and preserve the blood-stained corporal, the main relic of the Bolsena miracle. The Cathedral of Orvieto, known as the Duomo di Orvieto, began construction in 1290, a few years after the institution of the feast. This cathedral is a masterpiece of Italian Gothic architecture, with its richly decorated facade and impressive interiors. Thus, the first celebration of Corpus Christi and the construction of the Cathedral of Orvieto are interlinked events that established a lasting legacy of Eucharistic devotion, celebrating the Bolsena miracle and the vision of Saint Juliana of Liege. These events continue to inspire and strengthen the faith of many Christians, reaffirming the centrality of the Eucharist in the life of the Church and the spirituality of the faithful. It is worth noting that some religions may choose not to believe in or observe the Corpus Christi holiday for a variety of reasons. Some have their own beliefs and religious practices that do not include the celebration of the Eucharist, or prefer not to venerate the host and wine as the body and blood of Christ. Additionally, there may be theological and interpretative differences regarding the nature of the Eucharist and what is written in the pages of the Bible. However, it is important to remember that, regardless of religious differences, the core issue is having faith in God and practicing principles of love, compassion, and mutual respect. Respect for religious diversity and the pursuit of peace and understanding among different traditions are values that transcend religious boundaries and are fundamental to building a more tolerant and inclusive world. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell to activate notifications, leave your like, and click on one of the 2 videos that will appear to continue watching us. Best regards and God bless. If you enjoy our content and want to support us, click on the Super Thanks button below. Your super thanks is not just a donation. It is a blessing that supports our mission to share the transformative journey of Jesus. Thanks for watching. Make sure to click the video on your screen.